Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community. With them we share our happiness, and it becomes greater. Our troubles, and they become smaller. May we never be too mean to give, nor too proud to receive. For in giving and receiving we discover you, and begin to understand the meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true strength of our community, the experience and wisdom of all people, the hopes of the young, and examples of care and courage which sustain us. Give us an open mind and a generous heart to welcome those who need us, and to admit your presence into our daily life. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for strength that comes to us through our community. לעולם יהא אדם ירא שמיים בסתר ובגלוי, ומודה על האמת ודובר אמת בלבבו. ריבון כל העולמים, לא על צדקותינו אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, כי על רחמך הרבים. מה אנחנו? מחיינו, מחסדנו, מה ישועתנו, מה צדקותינו, מה כוחנו, מה גבורתנו. מה נאמר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו? הלא כל הגיבורים כאין לפניך? ואנשי השם כלא היו, וחכמים כבלי מדע, ונבונים כבלי השכל. כי רוב מעשינו תוהו, וימי חיינו הבל לפניך. ומוצא האדם מן הבהמה אין, כי הכל הבל. Nevertheless, we are your people, children of your covenant, and called to your service. Therefore it's right that we should thank and praise you, proclaim your holiness, and daily say before you, Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Ekenu, Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Ekenu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goralenu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goralenu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goralenu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goralenu, Mayafa, 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 Yoshatenu, Ashreinu, Mayafa, 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 Yoshatenu, Ashreinu. Baruch שאמר והיה העולם ברוך הוא. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המהולל בפי עמו, משופח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו. בשבחות ובזמירות נגדלך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל בתשבחות. At dawn and dusk I seek you, reach out and look to you. With soul athirst I yearn for you. I am a beggar at your door. The galaxies cannot contain you, yet you dwell in my inmost being. I hold your glory in my heart. My love for you exceeds my speech. So I will praise your name, Eternal One, as long as your breath of life remains within me. Praise be the Eternal One forever. Amen and amen. Praise be the Eternal God, the God of Israel, who does wonderful things. Let God's glorious name be praised forever. Let the whole earth be filled with God's glory. Amen, amen and amen.
Oh
lives of all creatures to whom our praise ascends. You guide the world with constant love, your children with tender care. To you alone we give thanks. Yet though our mouth should overflow with song as the sea, our tongues with exultation as the roaring waves, and our lips with praise as heaven's wide expanse. And though our eyes shine as the sun in a moon, our hands spread forth like wings of eagles, and our feet speed swiftly as hinds, still we could not fully thank you, eternal God, for your infinite kindness to our ancestors and to us. Therefore, the limbs you have formed in us, the spirit you have breathed into us, and the tongue you have set in our mouth, all shall unite to thank and praise, extol you and exalt you, the sovereign God. Every mouth shall thank you, every tongue bear witness to you, every knee shall bend to you, every body bow down to you, every heart shall revere you, and every fibre of our being shall sing your praise. So it is written, all my bones shall say, who is like you, eternal one? Therefore we extol you and proclaim your glory, and praise your holy name, as it is said, praise the eternal one, O my soul. Let all that is within me praise God's holy name.
וכתובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קנייניך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשי ידיך ועל מאורי אור שעשית. יפארו הסלע
Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMaorot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truth of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levarecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol modecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi tzavacha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha v'lechtecha b'derech v'shoftecha u'tumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, כי אתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת ויציב וישר וקיים וטוב ויפה. הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת, אתה הוא אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו, מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו, צור ישועתנו, פודנו ומצילנו, מעולם הוא שמך. אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת, אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון. מבלעדיך אין לנו מושיע. ממצרים גאלתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, ומבית עבדים פדיתנו. משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם.
מי כמוך אלי אדוני, מי כמוך גדול בקודש, נורתני לא תוסף אלה, נורתני לא תוסף אלה.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו.
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. שאו ישראל, שמעו
tefillah, the standing prayer, or the tefillah, the prayer. Adonai
Sefatatita Ufia Kitzehilatecha Adonai Sefatatita Ufia Kitzehilatecha
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotzeinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh HaKol V'Zocher Hasdei Avot V'Imahot Umevii Gola Livnei Bneihem Lema'an Shemo Ve'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai B'chayei Meitim Atah Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morit HaGashem Mazriach HaShemesh U'Morit HaTar Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Rofeh Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato B'Shemei Afar Nichramocha Ba'al Gevurot U'Humido Melach Melech Meimit U'Mechayem U'Matzliach Yeshua V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei Hameitim Mekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך
קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות בתוך הארץ כבודו
כבודו מלא עולם
ברוך
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לטובתו נגיד כל אחד לטובתו נגיד כל אחד ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש קדושתך נקדיש ושמך אלוהינו נפקדו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לטובתו נגיד כל אחד לטובתו נגיד כל אחד ברוך הצלח אדוני האל הקדוש ברוך הצלח אדוני האל הקדוש.
You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day through your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Shabbat enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך, ברוך אתה אדוני, שעודך לבדך ביראה נעבוד. We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you are the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise you, O God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Sim, sim, sim shalom, tova, tova, uvracha, chen, 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 v'chesed, v'chesed, v'rachamim. Sim, sim, sim shalom, tova, tova, uvracha, chen, 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 v'chesed, v'chesed, v'rachamim. עלינו וכל ישראל עמך, ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, באור פניך. שים, שים, שים שלום, טובה, טובה וברכה, חן, חן, חן בחסד, בחסד ורחמים. כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים, שים, שים שלום, טובה, טובה וברכה, חן, חן, חן בחסד, בחסד ורחמים. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
days at the LJS, they would always religiously read the themes. Two people would come up on either side of the bima and read, and they would sing the theme song, hymn. Always a very beautiful moment of contemplation. However, we have some time constraints, I've been told. So, we go straight to page 481. 481. Well, we don't rise. Downstairs we rise for En Kamocha. We don't. We'll go straight into En Kamocha.
En kamocha Elodi Adonai ve'en k'masecha malchutecha malchut kol ulamim u'memshaltecha malchut gadol Adonai ve'en Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam ya'aleh Adonai oz nahor yisem Adonai yevakech b'tzavot
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo.
Gadolu l'Adonai iti, unerom ma shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, V'hatimenet v'hades alechot, v'hanetzach v'havod, Yivot v'shamayim, u'kol haaretz. Lecha Adonai, halav lecha v'hamitnaseh, lecha,
Just have to find it. Yes. Right. Ya'amot la'Torah, Yitzchak ben Mordechai. ראשון ואחרון. כולם.
So I won't be actually reading for the Torah, but I thought I'd volunteer to do a Divar Torah, just to give my perspective on the Torah reading. It could be argued the Torah is sexist. That's probably a discussion for another day. But we are actually reading from the only portion of Torah where there's an actual female name attributed to it. You can look and check that I have done my research correct here. Also, not only is the only one with a female in it, in the actual reading of Sarah, we don't actually hear much about her life, her attributes. I think when we actually read what was going with Sarah, it's a case of filling in the blanks. As we all know, and we've learned in previous readings, that Sarah was barren for many years, and somehow at the age of 90, a gift from God, she gave birth to Isaac. Again, I'm not sure how it happened, but that's what it says in the Torah, so we don't argue. So Isaac, a young man, God's gift, was suddenly about to be taken away. when Abraham was asked to sacrifice him as a test of his faith. There is no account in the Torah of what Sarah was thinking at this time. One of the commentaries said that she was actually exposed to Abraham taking Isaac away with a knife in his hand for this ultimate sacrifice. We also learned recently on the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham actually challenged God, but on this occasion he didn't. I'm also thinking of Sarah. Was she silently protesting? What was she feeling? She's probably thinking, there's 3 people in this marriage, but obviously powerless in trying to come between Abraham and God. We all know that Isaac was spared at the end, and he was alive and well to lead the next generation of Jews. But do we hear anything about Sarah's unresolved trauma over this event? What we do know, she died soon after. Perhaps this was from the shock of the near sacrifice. There's no mention of any pain and tears for Sarah that she must have inevitably suffered. We just hear about her role through Abraham and God's eyes. What we do learn, and I know that Padley will be touching on this in her sermon, is Isaac's marriage or proposal to Rebekah. Isaac brought Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he actually said, this is the only probably romance we actually see in the Torah, he actually said he loved her. This may have given Isaac comfort after the death of his mother, and it was actually said it was in the house or the tent of Sarah where this happened, so there might have been some consolation. At least this provides some positive legacy from the generation to generation as we honour our underrated matriarchs. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach L'Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher b'chapanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notei HaTorah.
So we will be reading Genesis 24 verse 53 to 67, which is actually focusing on the servant of Abraham going to find a wife for his master's son and heir, Yitzchak. And he has already encountered Rivka, found out that she is family of Abraham. It's very interesting with the patriarchs, there's a sense of to marry within the tribe, that don't really like marrying people from Canaan itself, people living there. And we start off when the servant is introduced to Rivka's brother and mother, and he brings gifts. Now these are not just gifts, they actually are the bride money. Later on the rabbis say it only needs to be a pruta, which is the smallest monetary unit for a groom to propose. If the bride accepts, even if it's the worth of a pruta, if he brings dates and she'll eat them, she's engaged. So be very careful of those who bring gifts. And he brings gifts for the family as well. So that's where we come in. Now, I have to find it again. ויוצא העבד כלי כסף וכלי זהב וגדים וייתן לרבקה. And the servant brought silver and golden implements and clothes, and he gave them to Rivka. ומקדנות נתן לאחיה ולאמה. And he brought also gifts to her brother and her mother. ויאכלו וישתו הוא והאנשים אשר עמו. And they ate and they drank, he and the people that were with him. Vayalinu, vayakumu bavoker. And they stayed the night there, and he got up in the morning. Vayomer shalachuni ladoni. And he said, send me to my master. Vayomer achiha ve'ima, but her brother and her mother said, Teshev hana'ara itanu yamim o asor. Achar telech. And her brother and mother said, let the girl, now this is a wonderful example of what we call in Hebrew katif karei. That what's written is not what we read because it says hana'a, the boy. But obviously we're talking about Rivka, the girl. So they said, let the girl stay with us. So 10 days or so. And after that, she can go. Vayomer alehem, al ta'achru oti, don't delay me. Va'adonai hitzliach darki, since God has actually made my journey successful. Shalchuni le'elcha le'adoni, send me and I'll go to my master. Vayomru nikra le'na'ara, unish'ala et biha. And they say, but let us ask the girl and ask what she thinks. And this is the rationale for the rabbis to give a bride a choice, that we have to ask her opinion. Thank goodness. Do be well aware though, it's after the transaction has already taken place. Vayikru leRivka, and they called Rivka, vayomru eleha, and they said to her, Telechi im ha'ish hazeh, will you go with that man? Vatomer elech, and she said, I'll go. Yashlichu et Rivka achotam ve'et menikta, and they sent Rivka, their sister, and her nurse, Bet Evet Avraham, Bet Anashav, and the servant of Abraham and his men. And it's interesting, her nurse is probably her wet nurse, who is her chaperone, and actually stays with her until her death, because later on in, now let me see, where is it? In Genesis 35 verse 8, it said that she's buried with where Rivka lives. And we also learn her name is Dvorah, so she stays with her. Vayomru la achotenu at. You are, and they said to her, you are our sister. They blessed her and said to her, you are our sister. Hayi le'alfei ravava, be till 1,000 of myriads. Vayirash zar'acha et sha'ar son'av, and may your offspring inherit the gates of its enemies. It's very reminiscent to the blessing given to Abraham after the Akedah. And this, incidentally, is also the blessing that we still give brides at the Bedekken ceremony, if they do a Bedekken. It's when the bride is veiled before her wedding. Batakom Rivka, the Naaroteha, and Rivka got up with her girls, so she had servants with her, maid servants as well. She was quite well off, clearly. But Takibena, and she drove al hakamalim, and they drove on the gemalim and the camels. Telachna, and they went acharei ha'ish, after the man. Vayikach ha'eved et Rivka, and the servant took Rivka vayelach, and he went. And now the camera turns. Vayitzchak ba mivo be'er l'chai roi. And Yitzchak came from going to the be'er l'chai roi, where he later settles. V'hu yoshev be'eretz ha'negev, and he was dwelling in the Negev. Vayetze Yitzchak l'shuach basadei lifnot aref. And Yitzchak went out to, well, we don't know exactly what, because this is a word that only appears once. It's a hapax legomenon. And so, if you look at Arabic, there it means to walk, to go out for a walk. But if you look at the word siach, which is a conversation, the rabbis assume he went out actually to pray. And from this we derive the tradition of having a mincha service, because it was towards evening, it wasn't evening yet. And he lifted up his eyes and see my camels coming. And at that same moment, and Rivka lifted up her eyes, and she saw Yitzchak, and she alighted from her camel, or she fell from her camel. Just how you want to interpret it. And she said to the servant, who is that man that is walking in the field towards us? Who Adoni? That is my master. And she took a veil and she covered herself. And the servant told Yitzchak everything he had done. And Yitzchak brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother. And he took Rivka, and she became his wife. And he loved her. And he was comforted after his marriage. So beautiful.
There's like a lovely happy ending. There's really cheery. Well, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam natan b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את יצחק בן מרדכי, שעלה היום לכבוד המקום ולכבוד השבת. הקדוש ברוך הוא יברך אותו ואת כל משפחתו, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיו עם כל ישראל, אחיו ואחיותיו, ונאמר אמן. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, bless Yitzchak ben Mordechai, who has come up to the Torah in honor of God and the Shabbat. May the Holy One, ever to be praised, bless him and his whole family, everybody is dear to him, and prosper him in all that he undertakes, together with all his brothers and sisters of the house of Israel. And let us say,
Amen. And ironically, my Hebrew name is Yitzchak as well.
Yeah, there you go. So, I think we raised the scroll now. So we do. That
Please be seated. Today's Haftorah is from Ruth, chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. It can be found on page 1420 of the JPS Tanakh. I'm afraid I couldn't find it in the Sonsi mode. Right, we've got some more women power here this meeting. We've already tried, well, I've tried to do sense of justice, and now we're reading about the virtues of Ruth. Ruth is a Moabite woman, recently widowed from an Israelite, but she's poor, she's vulnerable, but her behaviour with handling the grief of her husband and as she came to Israel was exemplary. Each day she would go to the fields to glean food from the harvest. Boaz the landowner would help Ruth and offer protection to her, and her widowed mother-in-law Naomi due to their good deeds. He offered protection, and despite their vulnerability, he ensured that they were so. Boaz and Ruth eventually married. This is a wonderful story of how God has changed the lives of others from a tragic situation. We have another happy ending. This reading is made in loving memory of my father and best friend, Martin Zions. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'atzar b'divreihem, hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, abacher b'Torah, v'Moshe avdo, v'Yisrael amo, v'Yi ha'emet v'tzedek. Now Naomi had a kinsman on her husband's side, a man of substance, of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, I would like to go to the fields and glean among the ears of grain, behind someone who may show me kindness. Yes, daughter, go, she replied, and off she went. She came and gleaned in the field, behind the reapers. And, as luck would have it, it was a piece of land belonging to Boaz, who was of Elimelech's family. Presently Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. He greeted the reapers. The Lord be with you. And they responded, the Lord bless you. Boaz said to the servant who was in charge of the reaper, whose girl is that? The servant in charge of the reapers replied, she is a Moabite girl who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the reapers. She has been on her feet ever since she came this morning. She has rested but little in the hut. Boaz said to Ruth, listen to me, daughter. Don't go to glean in another field. Don't go elsewhere, but stay here close to my girls. Keep your eyes on the field they are weeping and follow them. I've ordered the men not to molest you. And when you are thirsty, go to the jars and drink some of the water that the men have drawn. She prostrated herself with her face to the ground and said to him, why are you so kind to me as to single me out when I am a foreigner? Boaz said in reply, I have been told of all that you did for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in the land of your birth and came to a people you had not known before. May the Lord reward your deeds. May you have a full recompense from the Lord of the God of Israel. Under the wings you have sought refuge. And they all lived happily ever after. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Sur kol holamin, Sadiq b'chol hadorot ha'al hanema'an, Hama'er v'oseh, Hamadaber m'kayim sheb'chol davar emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'amvi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, Shenata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, L'kdusha mahal v'kavod u'tiferet, Al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu motzina, U'mokim v'chom, Yitromashim v'afi kol ha'tomid v'olam v'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Joseph, you've got my number if you need me.
Let us stand and turn to page 484. Now, we have our three communal blessings. Anyone who wants to read the first one?
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility to and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. Amen.
Amen. And the communal prayer.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be free, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Amen. May I ask you to put your finger on this page and go to page 607, which is the prayer on behalf of those who are ill. And when we come to name them, I'll look around the community. If there's anyone whose name you want to be mentioned, then please, when my gaze rests upon you, please do say their name. Eternal God, we thank you for the gift of life and for the healing powers that you have implanted within your creatures. Sustain, we pray.
I'd like to mention in our community Jeanette Schindler, who's still struggling but recovering from her fall, and also Phyllis Sanderson, who's back home from hospital but still is needing a long time for recuperation.
Susan Schonfield, my sister, is going to have a hip operation in a few days.
Wish them all strength. They're all our loved ones. And we once wish them strength through their time of illness. Grant them courage and strength to endure pain and weakness. Teach us how best to help them by our love and care for them and by our own composure. May they and all who are ill know that you are with them, comforting them and reinforcing their will to get well. May their afflictions soon be ended, and may they return in health to family and friends. Yehi ratzon bilfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu, שתשלח מהרה רפואה שלמה, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, לכולם בתוך שאר החולים. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא החולים. We return to page 485, and do we have a volunteer for the prayer for Israel?
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens in faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah, and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. Page 486, Hallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nisgav shemo levado. God's word is unfailing. God's precepts are right. God's commandments are clear. God's doctrine is pure. God's guidance is true. Behold, Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. As we started reading today's parasha, one would never have guessed that Parashat Chayei Sarah is known as one of the most romantic parashiot in the Torah. It must be said that the Torah isn't generally known for its romantic content. And indeed, at the start of our portion, we're joined in Abraham's servant's quest to find a suitable bride for his master's son and heir. And we might have thought it was all very transactional. The servant, impressed by Rebekah's industriousness, hospitality, and kindness, reveals his quest, pays the bride money to the brother and the mother, and only after all that has been done, they seek the young woman's agreement to marry a man she'd never met. Of course, that was how things were done in those days, and love wasn't a matter of concern when you want to marry. Only when Rebekah and Isaac meet for the first time, we learn that they were truly beshared for one another, as the love story truly unfolds. Until that point, we do not know why Rebekah consented to follow Abraham's servant to an unknown destination. Perhaps she agreed to the marriage out of a sense of adventure, as she seemed quite an independent and enterprising young woman. Or maybe she had initially set her heart on the servant. Now that's a story. That mysterious stranger who accosted her at a well and gave her gifts. Who knows? Although we get to know quite a bit about Rebekah's character, we have no idea of her motives and feelings, very much as we don't know much about Sarah's feelings. Because she's not the subject of the story, she's more the object of the story, decided over and acted upon. The marriage is arranged between her brother and Abraham's servant Eliezer, and when she finally meets Isaac, we only learn how Isaac feels about her. Isaac then brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah. He took Rebekah as his wife. Isaac loved her and thus found comfort after his mother's death. We don't know anything about Isaac. What about Rebekah? What about Rebekah? hard-working, kind and adventurous Rebecca. What did she think about him? The Torah doesn't really tell us whether Rebecca loved Isaac, for as we already know, the Torah doesn't tell us Rebecca's motives or emotions. It does, however, tell us what she did when she saw him for the first time. And what she did is quite extraordinary. What did she do? She fell off her camel. Most translations make her alight more gracefully, but that's not what the Hebrew says. It says she fell off her camel. Was it meant as a slapstick? Was she perhaps a little bit clumsy, a disarmingly clumsy Bridget Jones kind of way? The rabbis surmise that she fell because she was overcome with love and admiration when she beheld Isaac waiting in the field, coming towards her in the field at sunset. Now, the rabbinic interpretation, this one, makes for an arresting reversal of stereotyping, in which the woman is overcome by the appearance of a man. A role reversal in which men, not women, are objectified. He is the handsome hunk that makes her fall off the camel. It is a way of seeing the world of which the rabbis seem to be quite fond of, because we find a similar role reversal in a famous midrash about Joseph, who is known to have been quite handsome. In this midrash, the rabbis describe a scene in which the female friends of Potiphar's wife are all overcome by the beauty of Joseph when he enters a room in which they are all engaged in chit-chat whilst peeling oranges. Don't peel oranges with a knife when Joseph comes in, because his appearance is so dazzling and distracting that they all cut their fingers. Perhaps it's not surprising that in the Torah, beauty and desirability, as far as the Torah speaks about beauty and desirability, not much, but personified and depicted by the human body, is generally focused on male beauty. Although we, conditioned by centuries of Western art and iconography, we're used to female nudity as a personification of beauty. In classical and neoclassical art and sculptures, it's the reverse. We find the male nude body is used to express a sense of beauty, whether it is to express strength in amazingly contorted muscular bodies, or a sense of more universal human beauty in the depiction of an almost effeminate adolescent nude, which in contrast, women's bodies are generally covered by clothes, whether entirely or partially draped, heavily draped or more revealing, but nevertheless generally clothed. In contrast, we find in more modern Western sculptures, women often depicted nude, while the men are clothed. If, for instance, we'd all make a tour around London in search for its many statues and sculptures, we are guaranteed to find many more statues of fully clothed men, often to commemorate men of importance, and we find very few women, clothed women, to depict women of historical importance, because they weren't very important historically, or so we are going to think, but a far greater number of unknown nude women as an expression of art and beauty, on fountains and all kinds of places. I find it always very funny that in Finchley, near the biggest Orthodox synagogue, there is the so-called naked lady. So, and we find that very normal. None of this is entirely surprising, because the depiction of the human body in art and literature reflects the cultural constructs which define the place of men and women in public or in the private sphere, but also the balance of power between the sexes. In ancient Greece, the male nude body was something to be admired and proudly exhibited in the gymnasia during sport matches and games. The depiction of which is meant to evoke a sense of power, which is entirely different to the depiction of female nude bodies in Western art, which is meant to evoke a sense of desire. Both of these social constructs, which define the place of men and women, and therefore their ability to be seen and heard, and which describe what we should admire or desire, reflects a balance of power. Those in power are able to move freely in power, and they are free to treat those not in power as objects of desire. In the Torah, wherever beauty and desirability are mentioned, they often lead to unwelcome solicitation of others. Biblical protagonists' beauty is often abused by others, or nearly abused by others, strangers in a position of power. And that's why we find Joseph, who is described as being Yefat Torah Ufat Mar'eh, often translated as well-built and handsome, in Genesis 39, is, according to the Midrash, entirely objectified by the wife of Potiphar and her female friends. In the book of Esther, which we had the book of Ruth, where we had a woman, we have the book of Esther, also scroll, we find Vashti, who is commanded by her powerful and drunken husband, the king, to come and appear before all the male guests dressed in her crown. Now, the rabbis interpreted this emphasis on her crown to mean only in her crown. But Vashti refuses to be an object of admiration and desire in front of a palace full of men. And so she's never heard of again. That's what happens. We are very much preconditioned by what we see around us, and a depiction of human beauty which defines in very subtle ways our attitude to gender equality or inequality, power and ownership of somebody else's or one's own body. That's not to say that in cultures where women's bodies are not depicted as objects of desire, women are necessarily treated any better. On the contrary, very often there are patriarchal cultures in which the women are kept away, perhaps for their own protection, but more likely to preserve the ownership of the man under whose protection she lives. On the other hand, in cultures in which the female nude body is proudly exhibited, the female body is often objectified, which creates a sense of ownership and stresses the imbalance of power. Now, why am I talking about all this? It so happened that the 25th of November, very soon, is International Day Against Violence Against Women. And all rabbis have been asked by our movements and by the JWA, Jewish Women's Aid, to speak about this often ignored blight in society. According to statistics, 1 out of 4 women experience either domestic violence in their lives or some form of harassment, either in the home, in the street, or in their workplace. And the Jewish community is not immune from it. And as we can see, neither is the Torah. Harassment or violence, physical or emotional coercion exist when there is an imbalance of power. It can therefore happen anywhere, against anyone, even against men, as we see in the Joseph story. The home should, of course, be a place of safety, a retreat. But because of its private nature, it's sadly not always the case. And those who suffer should know that they have the power, that imbalance of power doesn't really exist, but they have the power to speak with someone about it. It can help them. The most beautiful part of our portion today, as we've already heard, is the unspoken mutuality between Isaac and Rebecca, even though she lived in a patriarchal society, which wasn't really interested in her motives or her feelings, as she was meant to keep them to herself. Nevertheless, we find in it tenderness and compassion. Isaac loved her, but of course he was only able to do so because she was open to his love, which can only mean that she loved him back, and he was comforted by her. The home they made together was one of love, compassion, and care. So, why then did she fall off her camel? Perhaps she was not overcome by his beauty. In fact, the Torah never talks about his appearance. We don't know if he was beautiful or not. But because she was struck by his sadness and his loneliness, because she knew she was able to fill the void in his life, and that would fulfill her too. For love is not about power, and beauty not about desire, but in giving and receiving, and in bringing true kindness into the world. Ken je hier song?
Amen.
הוא אלוהינו, אין עוד. אמת מלכנו, אפס זולתו. ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך. כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend, every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. When those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. And we think now, particularly Karen Brown, and we think of Vernon Bach, father of Stephen Bach and Jonathan Bach, Henry Freeman, father of Sheila Freeman, Anthony Jacobs, husband of Phyllis Jacobs, Phyllis Mitchell, wife of Dennis Mitchell, Lotte Olszewski, mother of Ruth Eva Spiegel, Ron Spiegel, husband of Francis Spiegel and father of Sarah Spiegel, and Martin Zions, father of Kevin Zions. Zichronoth livracha, we wish you long life. Yet the emptiness that their passing leaves behind, we are not alone, for we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts, for what they were is part of what we have become. We honor them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. And let us read together.
Yikedah Shemei Rabah, V'yamad Divrat Kivutei V'yamrech Malchutei, B'chai Echon V'yom Echon, V'chayei B'chol Beit Yisrael, V'nala V'zman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabah V'varach V'alam Ulamei Anoya. Yitzvarach Yishtarach Yitvahar Yitruman Yitaseh, V'yitzhadar V'yitrei Yitzhadar Shmei Chidusha V'yichu, V'yadar Mikol V'yachata V'shirata, Tushvachata V'nechemata, V'yamiram Barma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shema Rabba Mishmoya, V'chai Moleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'moma, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'kol B'yadam V'imru Amen. Please be seated. I went downstairs after Kathleen finished her sermon, and Nathan seems to be full in his stride with his sermon, so I don't think we're under any time pressures at the moment. So should we do the theme service? No, we'll leave it. By the way, I've mentioned the old to my father. I actually inherited his sense of humour, so perhaps you've got a lot to answer for there. But I would do the series. I'd like to thank Kathleen for taking our service. This is actually an idea, I want to take full credit, me and Daniel dreamt up this idea of inviting Kathleen upstairs and trying to find a rabbi, a liberal rabbi from downstairs. I remember our first thoughts were, this is madness. But we've done it, and well, it's worked well for us, and they all seem, when I had to look downstairs, they all seem to be quite intently listening to neighbouring, so hey, might be something to think of for the future. But thank you again, you give us lots of food for thought, and also there seems to be a women power kind of theme to the service, which I don't think anyone's objected to. So thank you very much, Kathleen. And also again, thank you to our musicians, Joseph and Lobo, for accompanying the service expertly. Just to let you know, future services, on Friday, continuing the theme of actually holding services in people's homes, it's Vivian Schreer's house. Now, Vivian's normally a regular here, but for ill health, she hasn't been able to come to the service, so it's nice that we're actually bringing the Shabbat to her. I normally don't like to put pressure on people to attend services in various places, but I think she would get quite a lot out of it if we make an effort to attend. As I say, it's a service in her house because she can't come here. Okay, and now next Saturday we've got a really special treat. Joseph, I think you've got these next Shabbat off. You're welcome to come here.
I'm off, yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome to come.
I'm elsewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. But we've got Rabbi, or better known as Cantor Gershon Simmons. I don't know if you're. He is a fantastic singer. He actually does performances of his cantor work, and we're really privileged to have him here. So really will be worth attending. Has anyone got any other announcements? Oh, Daniel.
I'd just like to say how wonderful it is that we have Ruth today welcoming a stranger, and I'd therefore like particularly to welcome Kathleen to her first service in this auspices, and I hope perhaps one of many. And I'd also like to welcome anyone who I don't know to the service, and those who are at their first service today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Especially little Henry.
Sorry?
Oh, little Henry, very well behaved.
Henry especially. Henry, please know you are extremely welcome.
We'll begin you opening the ark one day. Welcome, first of many. Okay, so the closing hymn. Right. Right, 2/8. Check downstairs.
Concluding benediction. I hope you do that. Yes. יברכך בכל טוב, וישמורך מכל רע. May God bless you with all good and keep you from all evil. ויאיר לבך בשכל חיים ויחונך בדעת עולמים. May God teach your heart the meaning of life and grant you knowledge of the infinite. וישא פני חסדיו לך לשלום עולמים. May God reach out to you with tenderness so that you may have enduring peace.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. And they have just finished downstairs. I don't even need any body armour.
It's like synchronised swimming.